I never imagined my own eyes would betray me. That evening, as I sat in my living room, the glow from the security monitor reflected on my wrinkled face. My hands trembled as I pressed the play button. I had forgotten to tell my daughter that I had called a technician earlier that morning to fix the security camera in the hallway. When the recording began, I thought I was just going to see him screwing some wires and tapping the screen. But what I saw instead made my heart skip like a drum. The technician was not alone. My daughter-in-law was there too. And they were not fixing any wires. They were too close, too friendly, too careless under the eyes of the camera. I froze. I didn't blink. My breathing grew shallow as I pressed the volume higher, hoping I was wrong. But after 15 long minutes, the worst happened. Oh, but let me pause here before I take you into the depth of this story. My name is Margaret. I am 71 years old, living quietly in Charleston, South Carolina. If you are new here, please, I want you to like, subscribe, and click that little notification bell so you never miss the next part of this shocking journey. Tell me in the comments, from which part of the country are you watching me right now? I always love to hear where my listeners are tuning in from. Now let me take you back to where it all began, before that fateful day when my heart almost stopped in my chest. It was a sunny Monday morning, the kind of morning where the sky is so blue it looks painted by angels. I was in my kitchen, pouring myself a cup of tea. My daughter, Emily, had gone to work, and my son, Robert, was on a business trip. The house was quiet, except for the tick-tock of the old clock above the fridge. But in that silence, I kept hearing tiny clicks and hums from the corner of the living room. At first, I thought it was just my old ears playing tricks on me, but when I leaned closer, I saw it was the security camera. The poor thing had been blinking for days, sometimes catching images, sometimes not. And for an old woman who values her safety, I knew I couldn't leave it like that. So, without thinking twice, I called the number of a local technician I had saved on a card stuck to my fridge. His name was Daniel, a young man I'd met once when he fixed my neighbor's television. He had kind eyes, though his beard made him look older than he was. I trusted him. I shouldn't have. Now here's the thing. I forgot to tell Emily that Daniel was coming. I meant to, but she was rushing out the door with her coffee, already late for work, and I didn't want to delay her. I'll tell her later, I whispered to myself. Later never came. By noon, Daniel showed up at my door. He had his toolbox and a friendly smile. "Good afternoon, ma'am," he said. His voice was polite, but his eyes darted around quickly, as though searching for something else. Still, I let him in. I even made him a sandwich, because that is what mothers do. We feed even strangers. He worked on the camera, climbing up the little ladder, screwing, unscrewing, checking the wires. At some point he asked if anyone else was home. I said no, only me. He smiled again and I thought nothing of it. But deep inside, there was a strange heaviness, a warning bell I couldn't quite place. Later that day, Emily came home. She didn't know I had called Daniel, and by then, I had completely forgotten to mention it. She was tired, her face pale, her voice sharp from a long day. She barely noticed me when she walked straight to her room. That night, I sat by the window, watching the moon rise. My mind drifted to Robert, and how far he always seemed from home. My son was good, but work had stolen him from family. His wife, my daughter-in-law Clara, was always around, helping me with chores, smiling politely, but there was a wall in her eyes, a secret I could never break through. The days went by. Daniel came back once or twice to check on the system. And though I thought it strange, I kept quiet. Maybe I trusted too easily. Maybe old age makes us blind to things we should see. Then came that day. The day I decided to sit in front of the monitor and check what the camera had been recording. I wasn't expecting anything unusual, only to reassure myself that the system was working. But when the screen lit up and I pressed play, I saw them. Daniel and Clara. Whispering. Laughing. Standing so close I could almost feel the heat from their skin. I leaned forward, gripping the armrest of my chair. My heart pounded in my ears. They thought nobody was watching. But I was. Minute by minute they grew bolder. 15 long minutes, my heart sinking deeper with every second. Then it happened. The worst thing I could imagine. My fingers shook as I paused the footage. The room felt colder. though the evening air outside was warm. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. My daughter-in-law, Clara, the woman I trusted, standing there with Daniel, the technician. Their faces too close, their laughter too soft, their whispers too dangerous. For 15 long minutes I had watched, waiting for it to stop, waiting for it to be nothing. But it didn't stop. And then the worst happened, something I never expected in my own house, right under my nose. My stomach churned, my throat tightened, and I felt like screaming. But I didn't scream. I just sat frozen, the glow of the monitor painting my face pale. My thoughts raced. Should I confront them? Should I tell Robert, my son? Should I keep quiet and pretend I saw nothing? I knew one thing for certain. Once a secret like this enters a family, it burns everything in its path. But let me slow down and explain how Clara became a part of our lives. Maybe then you will understand why this discovery cut me so deeply. Clara was young when she married Robert. She came from Ohio, soft-spoken and gentle, with a smile that made everyone trust her instantly. When Robert introduced her to me, I hugged her like a daughter. I thought she was the answer to my prayers. For years, I had prayed that my son would settle down, that he would not be swallowed by his work. And when Clara came, I felt my prayers had been answered. At first, everything was sweet. She baked pies, helped me with the garden, and always called me Mom. She never raised her voice, never complained. To me, she was perfect. But sometimes perfection hides secrets, doesn't it? Looking back, I realized the signs were there. The way she stared off sometimes, as if she was hiding another life in her head. The way her smile faded too quickly when Robert wasn't around. But I ignored it. I wanted peace, not suspicion. That's why what I saw on that camera broke me. It wasn't just about betrayal. It was about the destruction of trust, the shattering of a bond one thought was unbreakable. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in bed, clutching my rosary, whispering prayers that felt empty against the storm in my chest. I thought of Robert, far away on his business trip, working so hard to provide for Clara. How could I tell him what I had seen? Would he even believe me? Or would he think the old woman was just imagining things? Morning came, but it brought no peace. The sun rose, but it felt like shadows clung to the corners of the house. Clara walked into the kitchen, smiling, carrying a tray of scrambled eggs. "Good morning, Mom," she said cheerfully, as if nothing had happened. I forced a smile. My lips curved, but my heart did not. I studied her face, looking for guilt, shame, anything that would betray her. But she was calm, almost too calm. I wanted to ask her, "Where were you yesterday afternoon? Why was Daniel here with you?" But the words stuck in my throat. Instead I said, "Good morning, dear," and took the plate. Every bite of that food tasted bitter. I wondered if betrayal had a flavor, because if it did, that was it. The day dragged on slowly. Clara cleaned, hummed a little song, and went about her chores. I followed her with my eyes, wondering how a person could hide secrets so well. By evening I decided I needed to check the camera again. Maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe my tired eyes had tricked me. I prayed that what I saw had been nothing but a shadow. But when I sat down and pressed play, my worst fears grew deeper. This time the footage didn't show Clara and Daniel in the hallway. It showed them in the living room. My living room. Laughing again. Too close again. And then, the front door opened. It was Emily, my daughter, walking in from work. She froze when she saw them together. Her face twisted in confusion, then in anger. Clara jumped back, Daniel stammered something, but Emily wasn't having it. She dropped her bag on the floor, shouting words I couldn't hear through the low volume. My hand covered my mouth as tears welled in my eyes. Emily had walked straight into the storm. And now, the secret was no longer mine alone. Emily's voice rose in the living room, sharp as glass breaking on the floor. Though the camera's audio was faint, I could read her fury from the way her hands moved. Her chest heaved, her eyes widened. My daughter, my sweet but fiery Emily, was face to face with betrayal, and she wasn't the type to stay silent. Clara tried to calm her, raising her palms, her lips moving quickly as though weaving excuses. Daniel stepped back nervously, scratching his head, shifting his weight from one foot to the other like a child caught stealing. But Emily wasn't fooled. My heart pounded as I leaned closer to the monitor. I wished I could reach through the screen, pull Emily away before things escalated. The thought of my daughter being in the same room with that snake of a man, and with Clara, who had already crushed my trust, made me sick. Emily bent down, grabbed her bag from the floor, and pointed toward the door. She must have told him to leave. Daniel hesitated, but then he shuffled out quickly, almost tripping over himself. Clara followed him halfway, perhaps to explain, perhaps to beg. But Emily pulled her back with a grip on her arm. I couldn't hear every word, but I didn't need to. The body speaks when the mouth lies. Emily's eyes were fire. Clara's were full of tears, but I couldn't tell if they were tears of guilt or shame. I pressed pause, slumping back in my chair. My breaths were shallow, my heart weak. I thought about calling Emily right then, telling her that I had seen everything that I knew. But a strange fear held me back. What if she blamed me for bringing Daniel into the house in the first place? After all, I had called him. I had opened the door. I had forgotten to tell her. The guilt sat heavy in my chest. I turned off the monitor and stared out the window. Outside, the Charleston evening was golden. The sky brushed with strokes of pink. But inside, I felt nothing but shadows. Hours later, Emily walked into my room. Her eyes were red, her cheeks streaked with dried tears. She didn't say hello. She didn't sit down. She just stood there, her hands trembling at her sides. "Mom," she whispered. "Do you know who that man was?" I swallowed hard. My tongue felt like stone. "Yes," I finally answered. "He's the technician. I called him to fix the security camera. I forgot to tell you." Emily's eyes widened. "You called him? You let him into this house?" Her words cut me like knives. I tried to explain, but she lifted her hand, silencing me. She paced the room, her hair falling into her face, her breath quick and angry. "Do you have any idea what I just saw, Mom? Do you have any idea what Clara is doing behind Robert's back?" I wanted to say yes, I had seen it. I wanted to confess that I had sat in front of that monitor and watched every minute. But something stopped me. Shame, perhaps. Fear that she would think me weak, that she would think me part of the problem for not acting sooner. So I simply said, "Tell me." Emily dropped into the chair beside my bed, covering her face with her hands. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I saw her, Mom. I saw Clara with that man." She was laughing, touching his arm, like she was his wife, not Robert's. It was disgusting. I couldn't believe my eyes. I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "My dear," I whispered. "Sometimes the people we trust most carry secrets we never expect." "But what did she say when you confronted her?" Emily let out a bitter laugh. She said I was imagining things. She said Daniel was just fixing the wires, that I overreacted. Can you believe that? After everything I saw with my own eyes. I stayed silent. Sometimes silence speaks more than words. Emily looked at me sharply. "Mom, we can't let this go. Robert has to know. He can't live in the dark while his wife betrays him. We owe him the truth." Her determination both comforted and terrified me. I wanted justice, yes. But I also feared what the truth would do to my son. Robert was a proud man, sensitive beneath his hard exterior. The truth could destroy him, break him in ways he might never recover from. As I sat there, torn between silence and honesty, Clara knocked softly on my door. The sound was gentle, but it carried the weight of a storm. Emily jumped up, her face hardening. "Don't let her in," she hissed. But the door creaked open anyway, and Clara stood there, her eyes swollen, her face pale. She looked like a ghost of herself. "Mom," she whispered. Her voice was shaky, her hands twisting the edge of her apron. "Can I talk to you?" Emily spun around, blocking her path. "No, you can't. You've done enough talking with Daniel. What could you possibly have to say now?" Clara's lips quivered. She glanced at me, then back at Emily. "Please," she begged. "Just let me explain." Emily stepped closer, her finger pointed like a weapon. "Explain? Explain what? That you were smiling in his face? That you were laughing like a schoolgirl? Or maybe you want to explain why you've been sneaking around behind Robert's back." The room vibrated with tension. My chest tightened as I watched the two women I loved, one filled with righteous anger, the other drowning in guilt. Clara's knees buckled slightly, and she clutched the doorframe. It's not what you think, she whispered. I swear it's not. Emily's laugh was sharp and cruel. Not what I think. Then what is it, Clara? What is it? Because from where I stood, it looked very clear. I wanted to intervene, to calm the fire before it consumed us all. But before I could speak, Clara's voice cracked through the air, louder than I had ever heard it. You don't understand, she shouted, tears spilling down her face. Daniel isn't what he seems. He's not just a technician. She stopped suddenly, her eyes darting toward me, then back to Emily. Her chest heaved, her lips trembled. Emily leaned forward. He's what? Spit it out, Clara. Clara's voice dropped to a whisper, almost too soft to hear. He's part of my past. A past I never wanted Robert to know about. The room went still. My breath caught in my throat. Emily's jaw dropped. Clara's words hung heavy in the air, thick with mystery and fear. I finally found my voice. What do you mean, Clara? What past? Clara wiped her tears with the back of her hand, shaking her head. I can't tell you everything. Not yet. But if Robert finds out, it will ruin everything. Please believe me. What you saw, it's not what you think. But if I tell you the truth, it might destroy us all. Emily's fists clenched. You're lying. You're just trying to cover up your dirt. I don't care about your past. Robert deserves the truth, and I'm going to tell him. Clara gasped, stepping forward, gripping Emily's arm. No. You can't. Please, Emily, I'm begging you. If Robert finds out now, it will break him. Please. Emily yanked her arm free, her eyes blazing. Then you better start talking, Clara. Because if you don't, I will. The silence that followed was deafening. Clara's sobs filled the space, but behind her tears, I saw something else, fear. Real fear. That's when I realized this was no ordinary betrayal. Clara wasn't just hiding a fling. She was hiding something much darker, something that had claws deep in her past. And before I could ask more, the front door burst open. It was Robert. He was home early from his trip. His suitcase dropped with a thud on the floor, and he looked at all three of us with confusion painted across his tired face. What's going on here? He asked, his voice stern, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the room. Emily and Clara froze. I froze. The truth was seconds away from spilling, whether we were ready or not. Robert stood in the doorway, his eyes moving from Emily to Clara, then to me. His face was tired from travel, but the sharpness in his gaze told me he knew something wasn't right. Why is everyone so quiet? He asked slowly, his voice carrying the weight of suspicion. He set his suitcase down, straightened his tie, and stepped forward. What's going on here? Clara quickly wiped her tears, trying to force a smile. Robert, you're home early. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow. Her voice cracked as she spoke, betraying her calm act. Emily crossed her arms tightly. Robert, we need to talk, she said, her tone firm. He frowned, glancing between the two of them. About what? The air in the room grew thick, as if the walls themselves were listening. My throat went dry. Emily opened her mouth, ready to pour out the truth, but Clara jumped in, her words rushing out like water from a broken dam. It's nothing, Robert. Really. Just a misunderstanding. Emily got upset, but it's all fine now. Emily's face turned red. Fine. Do you think I'm stupid, Clara? I saw everything with my own eyes. Don't you dare lie in front of him. Robert raised his hand. Enough. Both of you. Somebody tell me clearly what happened. His voice was steady, but I could see the storm brewing in his eyes. I wanted to speak to calm them all, but my voice failed me. The burden of what I knew weighed heavily on my chest. Emily finally broke the silence. Robert, your wife has been keeping secrets from you. I caught her with that technician, Daniel. They weren't just fixing wires. They were acting familiar. Too familiar. Robert froze, his jaw tightening. Slowly he turned to Clara. Is this true? Clara shook her head frantically, tears streaming again. No, Robert. Please, it's not what it looks like. Daniel, he's just someone from my past. I never wanted you to know because her words broke into sobs. Robert's face hardened. Because what, Clara? What else haven't you told me? The knock at the door rattled the walls, loud and heavy. like a hammer striking iron. We all froze. My heart pounded in my chest, my old bones trembling as I gripped the edge of my chair. Robert's eyes darted toward Clara, suspicion burning in his gaze. "Who is it?" he demanded, his voice sharp. Clara's lips quivered. She shook her head slowly, tears brimming in her eyes. "Robert, please don't open the door. I beg you." Emily let out a bitter laugh. "Begging already? What are you so afraid of, Clara? Maybe the truth has finally come knocking." Another round of pounding echoed through the house, this time harder, angrier. Whoever it was, they weren't leaving until the door was opened. Robert's face hardened. "I'm not standing here in my own home while someone tries to break down my door." He stormed toward the entrance. Clara lunged forward, grabbing his arm with both hands. "Robert, please. Don't open it," she cried. He jerked his arm free. "Enough. I want answers." I wanted to speak, to tell him not to, but my voice caught in my throat. Something deep inside told me danger waited on the other side of that door. Robert yanked the door open. And there he was. Daniel, the technician. His hair was messy, his shirt untucked, and his face flushed with desperation. He looked nothing like the calm man I had invited into my home days before. His chest rose and fell as though he had run a mile. And his eyes darted past Robert, locking immediately on Clara. "Clara," he said, his voice cracking. "You didn't answer my calls. Why didn't you call me back?" The room went silent. Robert stood stiff in the doorway, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. Emily's eyes widened, her arms folded tighter across her chest. I could only sit frozen, watching the storm unfold. Clara's face went pale. "Daniel, you shouldn't be here." Robert turned slowly to her, his voice low and dangerous. "You know him? Personally?" Clara opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Daniel stepped inside, ignoring Robert's presence entirely. His eyes never left Clara. "You promised me, Clara. You said you'd tell him the truth. You said you were done living this lie." Emily gasped. My heart nearly stopped. Robert's face darkened like thunderclouds gathering before a storm. "Truth?" Robert hissed. "What truth, Clara?" Clara sobbed harder, shaking her head. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way." Daniel's voice grew louder. "He deserves to know. Stop hiding. You can't keep me a secret forever." Robert grabbed Daniel by the collar, his rage exploding. "A secret? You've been sneaking into my house, into my life. Is that it?" Daniel pushed back, his own anger rising. "You don't understand, man. You don't even know her, not the real her." The two men glared at each other, their fists clenched. Emily rushed forward, trying to pull Robert back, but he shoved her aside gently, his eyes still locked on Daniel. Clara collapsed to her knees, sobbing into her hands. "Please stop. Both of you. This isn't what it looks like." But the damage was already done. I forced myself to stand, my legs weak, my voice trembling. "Everyone stop this madness. Violence won't solve anything. Clara, speak the truth now, or this family will be torn apart forever." Clara lifted her face, streaked with tears. She looked at Robert, then at Emily, then at me. Her voice was a whisper. "Daniel, he's not just a technician. He's my past. Before I met you, Robert. I knew him. We were together." The words fell heavy into the room, crushing the silence like a hammer. Robert's eyes widened in shock. Emily gasped, covering her mouth. My heart sank, though I had already suspected something like this. Clara continued, her words tumbling out between sobs. "I never wanted you to find out like this. Daniel and I. We had a relationship years ago. But when I met you, Robert, I thought it was over. I thought he was gone from my life forever." Daniel's voice rose again, desperate. "But you came back to me, Clara. You sought me out. You said you missed me. Don't lie now." Clara's sobs grew. Robert's hands trembled as he clutched the note, his jaw tightening with every word he read aloud. "You can't hide the truth forever. I know everything about Clara. If you don't leave town, you'll regret it." The words hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Emily took a step closer, her voice shaking. What does that mean? Who wrote this?" Clara stumbled backward, nearly falling against the sofa. Her face was pale, her eyes darting from the shattered window to the note in Robert's hand. No, no, it can't be, she whispered. Daniel's brows furrowed. What do you mean, Clara? Who would send something like this? She shook her head violently. I don't know. I don't know. But her trembling lips betrayed her. She did know something. Robert turned on her, his eyes blazing. Clara, enough lies. First Daniel, now this? Someone just threatened our family, and you're standing there like a guilty criminal. What are you hiding from me? Tears streamed down Clara's cheeks as she dropped to her knees. Robert, please. I was going to tell you everything. I swear. But I was afraid you'd leave me. Afraid you'd hate me forever. Emily's voice was sharp. So instead, you let us all live in lies? You brought danger into this house, Clara. Clara sobbed into her hands. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Daniel stepped forward, his voice hard. You've been running from your past for too long, Clara. Whoever threw that brick, they know. They're forcing you to come clean. Robert shoved him back with a glare. And what do you know about her past? Huh? Are you in on this too? Daniel raised his hands defensively. No. I swear I'm not. I only know what Clara told me. That there were things she never wanted you to find out. Things dangerous enough to destroy everything. My knees felt weak, and I lowered myself back into my chair, clutching the armrest. My heart hammered against my ribs. I had lived 71 years, but never had I seen a storm like this tear through my family. Robert crouched down in front of Clara, gripping her shoulders tightly. His voice was hoarse, almost broken. Tell me right now, Clara. Who is threatening us? What did you do? Clara looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen. Before I met you, Robert, I wasn't the woman you think I was. I had a life, a dangerous one. Daniel wasn't just my boyfriend. He was part of it too. There were people I owed. People who wanted things from me. I thought I left it all behind when I married you. But it looks like my past has followed me here. Emily gasped. You mean this has nothing to do with love? With you sneaking around? This is about something darker. Clara nodded slowly, her body shaking. Yes. And if they found me, none of us are safe. Robert stumbled back, his face pale with shock. All these years, and you never told me? You put me, my sister, my mother, everyone I love, in danger without a word. Clara tried to reach for his hand, but he pulled away, his body trembling. Emily stepped between them, glaring at Clara. You don't deserve this family. You don't deserve my brother. Daniel suddenly snapped, his voice desperate. Stop blaming her for everything. She tried to protect you all. If anyone's to blame, it's me. I should have kept her secret safe. But now it's too late. Robert turned on him, fury blazing in his eyes. Then tell me everything, Daniel. Who's behind this? Who's threatening us? Daniel hesitated, glancing at Clara. For a moment, their eyes locked, full of unspoken history. Then he shook his head. If I talk, they'll come for me too. Robert grabbed him by the collar again, his voice low and deadly. They already came for us. Either you talk now, or I'll drag the truth out of you. Before Daniel could respond, another sound pierced the room. A car engine roared outside. Tires screeched against the pavement. Headlights flashed through the broken window, blinding us for a moment. We all turned, our hearts racing. A black car sat idling in front of the house. Its windows were tinted, its engine growling like a beast waiting to pounce. Emily clutched my arm, her voice trembling. Mom, they're watching us. The car didn't move. It just sat there, the headlights burning into our living room. Then slowly, the driver's side window rolled down. Robert tensed, ready to protect us. Daniel's fists clenched. Clara's sobs turned into frightened gasps. And then, something small flew from the window, landing with a metallic clink on the porch. A cell phone. Robert stepped cautiously toward the door, picked it up and held it in his hand. The screen lit up on its own, and a video began to play automatically. We all gathered around him, our breaths caught in our throats. On the screen was grainy footage. Footage from inside our house. It showed Clara and Daniel, together in the living room, laughing, whispering, just like I had seen on the security camera. But this wasn't from our system. This was from another angle entirely. Someone else had been filming us. Clara screamed. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Robert's face twisted in horror. And as the video ended, bold red text appeared on the screen. The words on the phone's screen glowed in the darkened living room. This is only the beginning. No one moved. No one breathed. The shattered glass from the window still littered the carpet, sparkling faintly under the headlights from the black car outside. Robert's knuckles were white as he gripped the phone, his chest heaving with rage. Emily whispered, "Someone's been inside this house. They planted cameras. They've been watching us." Her words crawled into my ears like ice. I wrapped my arms around myself, shivering though the air was warm. The thought that strangers had invaded our home, our sanctuary, made my skin crawl. Robert's face was red, his veins straining in his neck. Whoever this is, they've crossed the line. Watching my wife, my family in my own house. He slammed the phone down on the table, the screen cracking under the force. Clara let out a terrified sob. "Robert, please, you have to believe me. I didn't know it had come to this. I never thought they'd find me here." Emily rounded on her. "You keep saying they. Who are they, Clara? Who are we dealing with?" Clara covered her face, shaking her head violently. "I can't say. If I do, it'll put us all in more danger." Emily's voice rose, sharp and furious. "More danger? Look around you. There's already a car outside, spying on us, throwing bricks into our house, sending threats. How much more dangerous can it get?" Daniel finally spoke, his voice grim. "She's right. This isn't a game anymore. They know where you live. They're not going to stop until they get what they want." Robert spun on him. "And what is it they want, Daniel? Money? Revenge? My wife?" His voice cracked on the last word. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. His eyes flicked toward Clara before he finally answered. "It's not about money. It's about power. Control. You don't know the people Clara used to be involved with. They don't forgive. They don't forget. And if they sent someone here tonight, it means they're sending a message." Clara collapsed onto the sofa, her face buried in her hands. "I thought I was free. I thought marrying you, Robert, would give me a clean start. But they've been waiting, watching, and now they've come for me." The weight of her words filled the room. My heart ached for Robert, who stood silent, torn between fury and heartbreak. Emily broke the silence, her tone sharp. "So what now? Do we just sit here, waiting for them to break down the door?" Robert straightened, his jaw set. "No. I'll protect this family no matter what. But first, Clara, you need to stop hiding. Tell me everything. Who are these people?" Clara shook her head, sobbing. "If I tell you, they'll kill us. All of us." Robert slammed his fist onto the table, making me jump. "They're already trying to destroy us. Keeping quiet won't save anyone." Before she could answer, headlights flashed again through the broken window. The black car outside revved its engine and slowly began to roll forward. Emily gasped. "They're leaving." But no. The car didn't drive away. It crept forward just enough for the back window to roll down. Something long and dark protruded from the gap. A gun. My heart nearly stopped. "Robert!" I cried. Robert dove toward Clara, pulling her to the floor. Emily dropped down beside me. Daniel crouched low, his face pale. A single shot rang out, shattering the night. The sound was deafening, echoing through the house like thunder. The bullet ripped through the picture frame on the wall, glass exploding across the room. I covered my ears, my body shaking violently. Emily screamed. Robert shielded Clara with his body, his face twisted in fury. Then, just as suddenly, the car sped off, its tires screeching against the pavement. Within seconds, the street was silent again, leaving us in the wreckage of shattered glass and broken trust. Robert stood slowly, his fists clenched. "That's it. Enough is enough. I'm calling the police." But Daniel grabbed his arm. "Don't. You don't understand. The police can't help you with these people. If you call them, it'll only make things worse. They'll see it as betrayal." Robert shoved him back. "Betrayal? They just shot at my family. You expect me to sit here and do nothing?" Daniel's face was grim. "You don't know what you're dealing with, Robert. These people, they own the police. They own judges. If you go to the law, you'll sign your own death warrant. Robert's breathing was heavy, his eyes burning with rage. But his hand dropped from the phone. For the first time I saw fear in his eyes, not just anger but real fear. Emily whispered, "So what do we do?" "Just hide in this house until they come back." Daniel looked at Clara. "You know what they want. You've known it from the start. Until you give it to them, they won't stop." Clara shook her head violently. "I can't. If I give them what they want, it won't just destroy me. It'll destroy all of you too." Robert knelt in front of her, gripping her hands tightly. His voice cracked. "Clara, please. I can protect you, but not if you keep me in the dark. What are they after? Tell me the truth." Clara's lips trembled. She opened her mouth to speak, but then her eyes flicked to the shattered window. For a moment terror froze her face. She whispered so softly I could barely hear, "They're already inside." Emily gasped. "What do you mean?" But Clara didn't answer. She just pointed toward the hallway. We all turned. The hallway light flickered once, twice. Then it went out. The house plunged into partial darkness. I clutched Emily's hand, my whole body trembling. Robert grabbed a lamp from the table, holding it like a weapon. Daniel moved toward the hallway cautiously, his fists clenched. From the shadows came a sound that chilled me to the bone. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing on the wooden floor. Someone was in the house with us. Clara screamed. Emily pulled me back toward the corner. Robert's face twisted with rage, his eyes scanning the dark. "Who's there?" he shouted. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then, from the darkness, a voice, low, calm, terrifyingly familiar. "You should have listened, Clara. We warned you." My blood ran cold. Clara collapsed to the floor, covering her face, whispering, "No, not him." The shadowy figure stepped closer, the dim light catching his face. And when I saw him, my heart nearly stopped. It wasn't a stranger. It was someone we knew. Someone we trusted. The figure stepped out of the shadows, and the dim light from the broken window fell across his face. Emily gasped. "No, it can't be." My stomach twisted. I gripped the arm of the sofa, struggling to breathe. It was David, Robert's childhood friend. The man who had stood beside him at his wedding. The one who had eaten at our table more times than I could count. Robert's jaw dropped. "David? What the hell are you doing here?" David's lips curled into a cold smile. "You still don't get it, do you? Clara wasn't the only one with secrets." Clara's whole body shook. "No. David, please. You promised me, you said you'd stay out of it." Robert spun toward her, his face twisted with disbelief. "You knew about this?" Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. I thought he left years ago. I didn't know he was still involved." David's voice was calm, almost mocking. "I never left, Clara. And neither did the debt you owe." He stepped further into the room, his eyes scanning each of us like a predator cornering prey. "Tonight was just a warning. Next time we won't miss." Robert's fists clenched. "You came into my house, you put my family in danger. If you ever come near them again." David cut him off with a laugh. "Or what? You'll fight me? You don't know the people I work for, Robert. You can't protect them from what's coming." Clara sobbed, her voice breaking. "Please, David, don't do this. Don't drag them into it. This is between me and them." But David shook his head slowly. "No, Clara. It's too late for that. You brought them into it the day you stepped into this house." His eyes flicked toward the window, where the sound of another car engine rumbled outside. He smirked. "And now they're here." We all turned toward the broken glass, our hearts pounding. Two dark figures stepped out of the car, their faces hidden in shadow. And in that moment I knew. This night was only going to get worse. The sound of car doors slamming shut sent a chill racing down my spine. The two shadowy figures stepped out, their movements slow and deliberate. The streetlight caught their outlines, revealing men tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in black. Inside, none of us moved. Robert stood stiff, his fists clenched, his jaw locked in fury. Emily clutched my arm so tight it almost hurt. Clara curled into herself on the sofa, her sobs muffled by trembling hands. David smirked as though he had all the time in the world. You see, Robert, this isn't about you. It never was. You married into something far bigger than you could ever imagine. And now, he tilted his head toward the door. Now it's time to pay. Robert stepped forward, his body like a shield between Clara and the intruder. Over my dead body. David's eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. That can be arranged. The two men outside walked closer to the house. Their boots crunched against the gravel. Each step echoed like a countdown to disaster. One carried a metal briefcase. The other slipped a hand beneath his jacket, where the faint outline of a weapon bulged. Emily's breath came in sharp gasps. They have guns, Robert. We can't fight this. But Robert shook his head firmly. I'll do whatever it takes to protect you. All of you. Daniel edged toward the window, his voice low. These men aren't here for a chat. Once they cross that door, it's over. We need a plan. Robert turned to him sharply. You knew about this too, didn't you? You knew they'd come one day. Daniel hesitated. His silence was enough of an answer. I wanted to scream at them both to stop arguing, but fear had frozen my lips. My heart hammered, and all I could think was that my family was about to be torn apart before my very eyes. David finally moved, pulling a small device from his pocket. It looked like a phone but bulkier. He tapped a button, and almost immediately, the front door lock clicked loudly. Clara gasped. They hacked the lock. The front door creaked open, and the two men stepped inside. Their boots thudded against the wooden floor as they entered the living room. The one with the briefcase set it down on the coffee table. He didn't say a word. The other kept his hand on his weapon, scanning the room like a hawk. David spread his arms dramatically. Robert, meet the men your wife has been running from. This is only a small piece of the storm. Robert glared, his body tense as a drawn bow. What do you want from us? The man with the weapon finally spoke, his voice deep and steady. We don't want you, Robert. We want her. He pointed straight at Clara. Clara whimpered, curling further into herself. Robert immediately stepped in front of her. You'll have to go through me first. The man tilted his head, almost amused. That can be arranged. The one with the briefcase finally opened it. Inside lay stacks of documents neatly bound with strange seals stamped in red. Mixed in were photographs, grainy taken years ago, of Clara with different men, different places, different names. Emily gasped. What is this? David leaned forward, grinning. Her past. Her lies. Her debts. Everything she thought she buried is right here. And it belongs to them. Robert's face twisted as he looked at Clara. Is this true? All of it. Clara's voice broke. Yes, but I did it to survive. I never wanted this life, Robert. I just wanted a chance to escape. To start over with you. The armed man slammed the briefcase shut, the sound like a gunshot in the silence. Enough talk. Clara, you come with us tonight or everyone in this room dies. Your choice. My chest tightened. My baby, my family was being torn apart right before me. Clara's hand shook violently as she rose from the sofa. Tears streamed down her face. I'll go, just don't hurt them. Robert grabbed her arm. No. You're not going anywhere. We'll find another way. Clara turned to him, her face streaked with tears. Robert, please, if I go, they'll leave you alone. It's the only way. Robert shook his head, his grip tightening. I'm not losing you like this. Not to them. The armed man stepped closer, his patience thinning. Time's up. He reached for his weapon. Robert moved instantly, shoving Clara behind him. Over my dead body. David smirked, enjoying the chaos. That can be arranged, old friend. Before anyone could react, Daniel lunged forward, tackling the man with the weapon. They crashed against the wall, struggling violently. The gun clattered to the floor, sliding across the carpet. Emily screamed. Clara sobbed. Robert dove for the weapon, but David kicked it away, his smile gone now, replaced with cold fury. Enough games, David shouted. He grabbed a knife from his pocket and pressed it against Robert's throat. You want to play hero? Heroes die first. Time slowed. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Robert's eyes locked on mine, filled with both terror and determination. Daniel groaned as he wrestled the other man. blood already staining his shirt. The briefcase spilled open, documents scattering across the floor. Emily clung to me, her nails digging into my arm. "Mom, we're going to die," she whispered. And then, just as David pressed the blade harder against Robert's skin, a blinding beam of light flooded the room. Red and blue lights. Sirens. Police cars skidded to a stop outside. Voices boomed through loudspeakers. "This is the police. Drop your weapons and step away from the family." David froze, his knife still pressed against Robert's neck. His eyes darted to the armed man, then back to the window where the sirens wailed. Clara gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "No, it's worse. If the police are here." David snarled, finishing her sentence. "Then someone tipped them off. And now we're all dead." The sirens wailed louder, their red and blue lights flashing through the broken window like angry lightning. Outside, police officers shouted through loudspeakers, "Drop your weapons. Step out with your hands where we can see them." But inside the living room, no one moved. David's knife pressed harder against Robert's throat, drawing a thin line of blood. His voice was a hiss. "If we step outside, we're finished. They're not here to save you. They're here to silence us all." Emily's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" The man wrestling with Daniel finally shoved him to the ground, pinning him. "He means," the thug growled, "your precious police belong to the same people we do. They're not here to rescue you. They're here to clean up." Robert's face was pale, his jaw tight. "So this is a setup?" Clara let out a strangled sob. No, it can't be." David yanked him closer, his voice dripping venom. "You should have stayed blind, Robert. You and your whole family are pawns in a game you don't even understand." The police voice boomed again. "Final warning. Come out now, or we're coming in." The tension in the room crackled like fire. Emily clung to me, whispering, "Mom, what do we do? If we stay, they kill us. If we go out, the police kill us too." For the first time, I felt utterly helpless. My family was trapped like animals in a cage. Robert locked eyes with Clara, his voice low but steady. "We have one chance. If we make a move now, we might still get out alive. But Clara," he swallowed hard, "you have to tell me everything. No more secrets." Clara's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, finally ready to speak. But before a single word could escape, the front door exploded inward with a deafening crash. Armed police stormed into the house, guns raised, shouting orders. And in the chaos, I saw David smile. The front door burst open with a violent crash, splinters of wood flying across the room. Dozens of heavy boots pounded against the floor as armed officers swarmed inside. Their rifles raised, red laser sights cutting through the dim light like glowing blades. "Police! Everybody down!" one shouted, his voice booming. We froze where we were, hearts pounding. Robert slowly raised his hands, his body still shielding Clara. Emily pulled me lower against the sofa, her breath shallow and quick. Daniel staggered up from the floor, bruised and bloody, but his fists clenched like he was ready to fight. David didn't move. The knife was still pressed against Robert's throat. But instead of fear, there was a twisted grin on his face, like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. The officer nearest us barked again. "Drop the weapon now." David chuckled, his eyes flashing. "Funny, isn't it? You think they're here to save you." Robert glared at him, his voice tight. "Then what are they here for?" But before David could answer, the lead officer stepped forward. And for the first time, I saw his face clearly. My stomach dropped. He wasn't a stranger. It was Detective Harris. The same man Robert had trusted years ago when his business partner betrayed him. The detective who had once been invited into our home for dinner. Robert's eyes widened. "Harris?" The detective didn't smile. He raised his gun higher, his voice calm but deadly. "Clara, you know why we're here. It's time to finish this." Clara shook her head violently, tears streaming. "No. Please, Harris, you promised me. I gave you everything back then. I did everything you asked. Why won't you leave me alone?" Emily gasped, her voice trembling. "Mom, she knows him." Robert turned on Clara, his face breaking apart. "You made a deal with him? With the police?" Clara sobbed, her voice cracking. "I didn't have a choice. Years ago, I gave Harris information about the men I was running from. I thought he was protecting me, Robert, I swear. But he's been working both sides all along. Detective Harris smirked. Smart woman. But not smart enough. You thought you could hide forever, Clara? You thought marrying this man, playing the good wife, would erase what you owe? No. Tonight it ends. David finally let go of Robert, lowering his knife. He stepped back, calm and confident now that the room was filled with guns pointed at us. See? I told you. They don't forgive. They don't forget. Robert staggered forward, his voice rising with fury. Harris, if you touch her, if you touch anyone in my family, I'll... The detective cut him off with a sneer. You'll what? You're nothing, Robert. Just a man who had the misfortune of marrying the wrong woman. The officers spread out, surrounding us. Their boots crushed the scattered documents from the briefcase, the evidence of Clara's past smearing underfoot. Daniel suddenly roared and lunged at the nearest officer, tackling him to the ground. A shot fired, the sound deafening in the small room. The smell of gunpowder filled the air. Emily screamed, covering her ears. Robert dove for Clara, pulling her to the floor as more officers rushed in. I hit the carpet hard, my body aching, but I didn't dare move. David grabbed the fallen gun from the officer Daniel tackled. He raised it, aiming not at us but at Harris. You lied to me too, Harris. I did my part and you promised me freedom. Where is it? For the first time, Harris's calm cracked. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. Put the gun down, David. You know how this ends. David's voice was a growl. Not until you tell me who's really in charge. Who's pulling your strings? The room was chaos. Guns raised, shouts echoing. Clara sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel wrestling with two officers. Robert shielding us with his body. And then like a whip cracking. The sound of another gunshot split the air. David stumbled backward, a bloom of red spreading across his shirt. His eyes widened in shock. He dropped the gun, collapsing to the floor. Clara screamed. Robert spun around. Who fired? But Harris didn't flinch. He lowered his gun slowly, his expression cold as ice. Loose ends, he muttered. That's all he ever was. Emily sobbed, burying her face into my shoulder. I stroked her hair, though my hands shook violently. Robert stepped forward, fury burning in his eyes. You just killed him in cold blood. Harris sneered. And you'll be next if you don't cooperate. Clara belongs to us. And if you keep standing in the way, you'll drag your whole family down with her. He signaled to the other officers. Two of them grabbed Clara roughly by the arms, hauling her to her feet. She struggled, screaming, Robert, please don't let them take me. Robert lunged, trying to rip her away, but another officer slammed the butt of his rifle into his stomach. Robert doubled over, gasping for breath. Stop! I cried, my voice cracking. Please stop. You'll kill him. But Harris didn't even glance my way. He leaned down toward Robert, his voice low and cruel. You should have left her when you had the chance. Now she'll be gone forever, and you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what really happened to her. Clara screamed again, her voice raw with desperation. Robert, don't give up on me. Robert lifted his head, his eyes blazing despite the pain. I swear, Harris, if you take her, I'll come for you. I don't care how powerful you think you are. I will find you. Harris smirked. We'll see. The officers began dragging Clara toward the door. Her cries echoed through the house, stabbing into my chest like knives. Robert struggled to rise, but another officer held him down. Emily clung to me, sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel lay bloodied on the floor, barely conscious. And then, just as Harris reached for the door to leave, the sound of shattering glass cut through the air again. From the back of the house, a voice roared. Nobody move. A figure stepped into the room, dressed in black, masked, holding a weapon. Not police. Not one of them. Someone else entirely. And in that moment I realized, we weren't caught between one enemy and another. We were caught in the middle of a war. The masked man leveled his weapon at the room, his voice booming with authority. Step away from her now. The officers froze, their grips tightening on Clara's arms. Harris narrowed his eyes, his gun still raised. Who the hell are you? The figure didn't answer. Instead, he moved swiftly, his weapon trained directly on Harris. "Let her go, or I'll put you down where you stand." Clara's sobs echoed through the room. "Please help me." Robert, still hunched in pain, looked up at the intruder with desperate hope. Emily clung to me, whispering, "Mom, is he here to save us or kill us?" I had no answer. Harris sneered. "You think one man can stop all of us? You've just signed your death warrant." The masked man's reply was cold. "Funny. I was about to say the same thing to you. And then it happened." In a blur he fired. The bullet struck the lamp, plunging the room into near darkness. Sparks crackled, shadows leaping wildly across the walls. Chaos erupted. Officers shouted, weapons drawn. But the masked man moved like a phantom, knocking one officer down with a swift kick, sending another's rifle clattering across the floor. Clara stumbled free, rushing toward Robert. Robert caught her, pulling her into his arms. "I've got you," he whispered hoarsely. Harris cursed, retreating toward the door. "Take them all. Don't let her leave." But the masked figure grabbed the briefcase from the table, holding it high. "Looking for this?" His voice was calm, almost mocking. Every gun in the room turned toward him. For a split second, the tension was unbearable. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. And then, without warning, the masked man hurled the briefcase through the broken window. Papers exploded into the night air like a storm of secrets. Harris's face twisted with rage. "No!" he shouted. In the confusion, the masked figure grabbed Clara's hand. "If you want to live, come with me now." Clara froze, torn between Robert's embrace and the stranger's grip. And that was the moment everything hung in the balance. The room felt like it had stopped breathing. Clara stood frozen between two worlds. Robert's trembling arms wrapped around her waist, and the masked man's gloved hand gripping hers tightly. Both men pulled at her, but in opposite directions, as if her body was the rope in a game of tug-of-war. "Don't go with him." Robert's voice cracked with desperation. "Clara, stay with me. We'll fight this together." The masked man jerked her hand. "If she stays, she dies. You all die. Harris won't stop until she's gone. I can keep her alive." Clara's eyes darted between them, panic written across her tear-streaked face. "Robert, I don't know what to do." Robert cupped her face with his bruised hands, forcing her to look at him. "Trust me. Whatever you've done, whatever secrets you've been hiding, we'll face them together. Don't leave me, Clara. Please." The masked figure cut in sharply. "This isn't about trust, it's survival. You want answers? You want the truth? Then you come with me. Or you'll never know why they're hunting you." Emily's grip on my arm tightened until her nails dug into my skin. She whispered, her voice trembling. "Grandma, what if he's telling the truth? What if he really knows something?" Before I could answer, Harris barked from across the room, his gun still trained on the stranger. "Don't listen to him, Clara. He's nothing but a mercenary, a hired thief. He'll sell you off to the highest bidder the second you're in his hands." The masked man tilted his head, his tone mocking. "Says the man who just tried to drag her away in front of her family. Real convincing, Harris." The officers fanned out again, their boots crunching on the scattered glass and papers, tightening the circle around us. The smell of sweat, gunpowder, and fear filled the air. Daniel, bloody and struggling to rise, growled through clenched teeth. "For God's sake, someone make a choice before we're all shot." Clara squeezed Robert's hands, her eyes brimming with tears. "I can't lose you, Robert. Not after everything." "But," she glanced at the masked man, "if what he says is true, if he really knows who's behind this, maybe this is the only way to end it." Robert's voice broke. "Clara, don't. Please don't leave me." The masked man tightened his grip on her wrist, his tone urgent. "Decide now. Because once they open fire, there won't be time." For a moment, the world shrank to nothing but the sound of Clara's ragged breathing. Then, suddenly, she tore free from both of them, stumbling back. "I can't choose. I don't know who to trust," she screamed. The explosion of sound that followed was deafening. Gunfire erupted. Bullets tore into the walls, shattering picture frames and spraying wood splinters through the air. Emily screamed, dropping flat onto the carpet. I threw myself over her, shielding her with my body. The masked man moved like a shadow, dragging Clara down behind the sofa as shots whizzed past. Robert dove after her, fury written across his face, but an officer tackled him to the ground, pinning him with a knee to his back. "Robert!" Clara shrieked, reaching for him. The masked figure pulled her away. "We don't have time, move." Harris shouted above the chaos, his voice like thunder. "Don't let them escape. Kill him if you have to, but bring her to me." Two officers lunged for the masked man, but he swung a heavy punch into one's jaw, dropping him instantly. He elbowed the second in the stomach, twisting his rifle away and kicking him hard across the chest. Robert, still pinned, struggled beneath the officer's weight. His voice was hoarse, almost breaking. "Clara, don't go with him. I'm begging you, don't leave me." Clara sobbed, torn in two. She tried to crawl toward Robert, but the masked man gripped her arm firmly, dragging her backward toward the shattered window. "If you want him alive, you'll come with me. Trust me, this is the only way." Emily looked at me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Grandma, what if he's right? What if she has to go with him to save us all?" I shook my head, my heart tearing apart. "I don't know, baby. I don't know anymore." Daniel staggered back to his feet, blood dripping down his temple. With a roar, he grabbed a chair and smashed it against the officer holding Robert down, freeing his father. "Get up, Dad. We can't let them take her." Robert pushed to his knees, gasping for air. He reached out, his voice raw. "Clara, stay." But Clara's eyes were wide, her chest heaving. And then, in the middle of the gunfire, the shouting, the chaos, she whispered a single word. "Saudi." In one swift motion, the masked man hauled her through the broken window. Glass shattered beneath their boots as they disappeared into the night. Robert screamed, a sound that ripped through me like a blade. He staggered forward, reaching for the window, but it was too late. Clara was gone. Harris cursed, slamming his fist into the wall. "Damn it! After them! Don't let them get away." The remaining officers rushed toward the door, shouting into their radios. Sirens flared again outside as backup vehicles screeched into the street. Inside the house, Robert collapsed to his knees, his hands trembling. His face was a mask of devastation. Daniel dropped beside him, clutching his father's shoulder. "Dad, she's gone." Robert's head lifted slowly, his eyes filled with a fire I had never seen before. "No," he rasped. "She's not gone. They've taken her, but I'll get her back. I don't care what it takes. I will get her back." And then his gaze shifted to Harris, who still stood in the room, his weapon lowered but his smirk returning. "You've made a mistake tonight," Robert growled. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. Not even close." Harris tilted his head, amused. "Oh, Robert, you have no idea how deep this goes." The two men locked eyes, the battle between them no longer just about Clara, but about power, secrets, and survival. And as the flashing red and blue lights painted the ruined walls of my living room, I realized something terrifying. Clara wasn't just a victim anymore. She was the key to everything. The flashing lights outside painted the walls in red and blue, but the house itself felt like a tomb. Broken glass crunched under Robert's boots as he staggered toward the window, his chest heaving. "Clara." His voice tore through the night, raw and desperate. But there was no answer. Only the echo of sirens and the fading shadows of the masked man dragging her into the darkness. Daniel gripped his father's arm, trying to steady him. "Dad, stop. You'll get yourself killed if you run out there. They're gone." Robert shoved him off, fury burning in his eyes. "Then I'll find them. I don't care if I have to tear this city apart, I'll bring her back." Behind them, Harris holstered his gun with chilling calm. "Touching speech, Robert." But she made her choice. She left with him. "If I were you, I'd accept it." Robert spun, his fists clenching. "You did this. You set her up. You've been pulling the strings all along." Harris smirked, stepping closer. "And you're still standing here, helpless, with nothing but anger. That tells me one thing. You'll never beat us." Robert lunged, but Daniel caught him, holding him back. "Dad, don't. That's what he wants. We can't fight him here." I stood frozen, Emily trembling in my arms. My heart hammered, but in that moment, I saw something shift in Robert's face. The despair didn't vanish, but it hardened into something else. Resolve. He straightened slowly, his voice low but steady. "You're wrong, Harris. I will beat you. I'll get her back. And when I do, you'll regret ever stepping foot in this house." Harris's smile faltered for the first time. Just a flicker, but I saw it. He leaned closer, his whisper sharp. "Careful, Robert. The deeper you dig, the more you'll wish you'd stayed blind." And with that, Harris signaled to his men. The officers filed out of the ruined house, leaving us in the wreckage of what had once been a home. Robert turned to us, his jaw set. "This isn't over. Tonight they took Clara. Tomorrow we take the fight to them." And in his eyes I knew he meant it. The house was a wreck, glass scattered across the floor, furniture overturned, walls scarred by bullet holes. The smell of gunpowder clung to the air, sharp and suffocating. Emily sat curled beside me, her small body trembling as she clutched my sleeve. Daniel leaned against the wall, wiping blood from his temple with the back of his hand. His chest rose and fell in ragged breaths. And in the middle of it all stood Robert. He wasn't shaking anymore. He wasn't even shouting. He was still, silent, his fists clenched at his sides, his face pale but his eyes burning with a fire I'd never seen before. "Dad." Daniel's voice was cautious. "She's gone. You saw it. He dragged her out that window. Harris has men everywhere. We don't even know who that masked guy was. What if she chose to go with him?" Robert's head snapped up, his eyes blazing. "No. Clara didn't choose this. She was forced into it, manipulated, cornered, terrified. You think she would willingly walk away from me? From us?" Daniel shifted uncomfortably, but didn't answer. Emily looked up at me, her little voice fragile. "Grandma is Grandpa, right? Will they bring her back?" I forced a smile I didn't feel and smoothed her hair. "Yes, sweetheart. We'll get her back. We have to believe that." Robert suddenly turned, pacing across the shattered floor. "No more waiting. No more hiding. Harris thinks we're weak. He thinks he can take Clara and crush us. But he's wrong. He doesn't know what I'm capable of when it comes to protecting my family." Daniel frowned. "And what exactly are you planning to do, Dad? Walk into the police station and demand her back? Harris owns half the force. He'll bury us before we get through the front door." Robert stopped pacing. His shoulders were squared, his voice cold. "Then we don't go through the front door. We find another way." Daniel's brow furrowed. "What are you saying?" Robert looked at him steadily. "I know people. Men who owe me favors. Old contacts I never thought I'd need again. They're dangerous but not as dangerous as Harris. If we can track down that masked man, we'll find Clara. And if Harris is pulling the strings, we cut those strings permanently." The words hung heavy in the air. Emily's eyes widened, her grip tightening on my arm. "Grandpa, are you saying you're going to fight the police?" Robert crouched down in front of her, his expression softening just for a moment. "I'm saying I'm going to fight the men who think they own us. The ones who think they can take your grandma, your mom, anyone we love, and destroy this family. I won't let them win. Not now. Not ever." Daniel let out a harsh laugh, bitter and pained. "Do you even hear yourself? This isn't a bar fight, Dad. This is a war you're talking about." Robert stood again, towering over him. "Then it's a war we'll win. I'm not asking you to believe in me, Daniel. I'm asking you to stand with me. Because if we don't fight, we lose Clara forever." Daniel pressed his lips together, torn. I could see the battle in his eyes, fear wrestling with loyalty. Finally he exhaled long and heavy. "Fine. I'll stand with you. But if we do this, we do it smart. No rushing in blind. We find out who that masked guy is first. Because whoever he is, he's not working for Harris. And that makes him the only lead we've got." Robert nodded once, grim but resolute. "Agreed." The house fell quiet again. Only the hum of sirens outside broke the silence. Somewhere in the distance, Harris's men regrouped. I could feel them, like wolves circling in the night, waiting for the right moment to pounce. I touched Robert's arm gently. "Robert, promise me something. Don't let this consume you. You're right. We need to fight for Clara. But if you lose yourself in the process, if you become like them," my voice wavered, "we'll lose you too." For the first time that night, Robert's hard expression softened. He placed his hand over mine, squeezing gently. I promise, Margaret. I won't lose myself. But I won't lose Clara either. Emily sniffled, finally loosening her hold on me. Grandpa, will Mommy come back? Robert knelt again, brushing a tear from her cheek. Yes, Emily. She will. Because I won't stop until she does. The conviction in his voice settled like steel in the room. For the first time since Clara had been dragged away, I believed him. But even as hope flickered, a new sound cut through the night. A faint tapping. At the shattered window. Daniel stiffened. Did you hear that? Robert's hand went instinctively to the heavy candlestick on the table. He moved slowly toward the window, glass crunching underfoot. The rest of us held our breath. Top, top, top. Robert reached the window and peered into the darkness outside. For a moment, there was nothing, just the shadows of trees swaying in the wind. Then, a gloved hand appeared on the sill. Robert's muscles tensed, ready to strike. But instead of an intruder climbing in, something small slid through the broken glass and clattered onto the floor. It was a phone. Robert bent down and picked it up cautiously. The screen lit up immediately, displaying a single message in bold letters. If you want Clara alive, be at the docks at midnight. Come alone. The phone went dark. Emily gasped. Daniel swore under his breath. I felt my chest tighten, the air leaving my lungs. Robert stared at the phone, his jaw set. This is it. Our chance. Daniel grabbed his arm. It's a trap, Dad. You know that, right? Midnight at the docks. It's classic bait. Robert's eyes never left the phone. Trap or not, Clara's there. And I'm going. I whispered, my throat dry. Robert, if you go alone. He looked at me, his eyes fierce but calm. I won't be alone. Not really. Because I'll have Clara with me when I come back. He slid the phone into his pocket, turned toward the door, and walked out into the night. The docks were silent under the midnight sky, the moonlight glinting off the dark water. Robert walked slowly across the worn planks, the phone's message heavy in his pocket, his every step echoing in the stillness. The smell of salt and rust filled the air. Ahead, shadows shifted. Figures emerged. Harris and his men, their weapons gleaming in the dim light. And there, between them, stood Clara. Her wrists were bound, her hair tangled, but her eyes lit up the moment she saw Robert. Robert! She cried, her voice breaking. He froze, every muscle tensed. Clara, I'm here. Harris stepped forward, smug as ever. I told you, Robert. You should have stayed out of this. Now you'll die beside her. But before Harris could raise his gun, another shadow moved, swift, silent. The masked man. He appeared from the crates, weapon drawn and fired. Chaos erupted. Bullets flew. Men scattered. Harris shouted orders, his calm finally cracking. Robert sprinted through the gunfire, diving for Clara. He ripped the ropes from her wrists, pulling her into his arms. I've got you. I told you I'd come. Clara sobbed, clutching his shirt. I'm so sorry, Robert. For the secrets, for everything. He shook his head. We'll deal with the past later. Right now we survive. The masked man fought like a storm, knocking Harris's men one by one into the water or onto the boards. Finally, his gun clicked empty. He hurled it aside and disappeared into the shadows as quickly as he had come. When the gunfire ceased, only Harris remained, his weapon aimed at Robert and Clara. This ends now, Harris growled. Robert stepped in front of Clara, his voice steady. You're right. It does. Before Harris could fire, Daniel appeared from the shadows, swinging a heavy pipe. The blow sent Harris sprawling to the ground, his gun skidding into the dark water. The battle was over. Clara fell into Robert's arms, sobbing. Emily rushed forward, clinging to her mother's waist. For the first time in what felt like forever, the family was whole again. And in that moment I knew the lesson. No secret is worth more than family. Truth may hurt, but lies can destroy. Viewers, thank you for staying with me through this story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell for more stories. Tell me in the comments, which part of the country are you watching from tonight?